Hello, I'm Parikshit Singh, MD, and I'm here at Studio 19 welcoming you. We have a great and esteemed guest here, Partho, who has been with us before. And our previous conversation was on Sanatan Dharma. We talked about what Sanatan Dharma means, the concept of Maya and Mithya, and how the Buddha and Christ are contextualized in the framework of Sanatan Dharma. Namaste, Partho ji.
Namaste. Namaste.
Thank you for coming again. And we have some questions for you today from the audience. But I would just like to quickly summarize what we discussed last time, what I understood, and you can correct me, and then we can take it from there for those who haven't watched the previous session. So Sanatan Dharma, in my understanding, is the eternal order or harmony of the universe, that which holds the universe together, the unity of all these various manifestations that we are seeing in life all around us. Is that correct?
Yes, it's the underlying order and harmony of things. Yes.
So, and then we talked about that it is not an illusion. Since all is real, everything that is manifest is not an illusion. The concept that it is an illusion is itself an illusion.
Yes.
And then we talked about mithya. It is a way of seeing the world where it does seem real to you the way you see it, but if you go have a deeper analysis or a perception of it, then suddenly it changes its phase, so to speak.
Yes.
And one can say it's a different order of reality.
Yes. Yes.
And you begin to see another order underlying the surface.
Yes.
So we ended our last discussion with Christ, and I know in your book you have discussed two great teachers in India, Swami Vivekananda and Sri Aurobindo. But if my understanding is correct, you could have discussed Christ here, you could have discussed the Buddha here, and still it would be Sanatan Dharma.
That's right. Yes. And several more teachers, masters of various traditions. It's still based on Sanatan Dharma. Yes.
So let's talk about Christ for a moment, because my perception is that we have not really understood Christ. This is my humble present understanding, that he's far deeper than we take him to be. His realization was of a unique kind, and we have talked about in the past that he was an incarnation of the psychic.
That's what Sri Aurobindo said.
That's
yes.
what Sri Aurobindo said. So tell us how do we take this statement? What does Christ represent, and what is the psychic?
So this will, of course, my response will be in the light of Vedanta.
Yes,
one
that's
has
what
to
we
keep
want.
that in mind.
Yes.
So, and again, when we do talk about the Christ from the Vedantic standpoint, Vedantic perspective, then we first have to be clear about Christ, the historical figure, the historical Christ.
Yes.
And the mystical Christ. And the two of them may have been the same entity.
Yes.
May not have been the same entity, or may have been the same entity at several points of intersection, but not all the way. So when Vedantically we talk of Christ consciousness, and I think I mentioned it
Yes.
last time to you. So what makes sense to the Vedanti is not so much the historical person Christ, but what Christ represented in spiritual and mystical terms, which was the Christ consciousness. Just as we talk of Krishna, for the Vedanti, it makes more sense to talk of the Krishna consciousness than the historical person Krishna.
Yes.
It's the same thing, really. So what is the Christ consciousness? So even if we go by several statements that Christ himself made according to the New Testament, according to several of the books of the New Testament, one thing emerges very clearly, that Christ represents unity in the Trinity.
Yes.
Christ represents the unity. And one of the master statements of Christ, my Father and I are one, and the Father is the supreme God, the Godhead itself, which again establishes the fact that he represents unity of the human and the divine.
Yes.
And he offers himself. I'm interpreting Christian theology in Vedantic terms.
Yes, totally.
So he offers himself as the bridge, the spiritual bridge between our humanity, our existence in the flesh, and our divinity, our real existence in the spirit. And again, emerging from several statements that the Christ is making, as we are reading the Christ statements, that it is through him that one goes to God, one goes to the Father.
I am the way.
Yes. So it reinforces the sense that he has offered himself as the bridge between our humanity in the flesh and divinity in the spirit. And this is a living bridge. It's not a bridge that once appeared so many thousands of years ago and is not there anymore, and one can only meet him after a certain period of time. Or that bridge is always there. As long as there are humans, that bridge will be there for any human who's awake enough to take that bridge, awake enough to know that there is such a bridge and where it leads to. So Christ is that consciousness of unity and the consciousness of reconnecting to the source, to the divine source, which is why we call it Christ consciousness. Because how is Christ a bridge? Because Christ is really the consciousness. And where is this consciousness? And again, Christ has said this in many places, especially in the Gnostic Christian interpretation, that the seat of Christ is in the heart.
Right.
I reside in the heart of hearts. So here we have a Vedic parallel that, again, the heart of hearts is the seat of Ishvara in the Sanatan tradition. And Ishvara, again, is not God, but a divine consciousness. And it's a divine consciousness that divinizes you the moment you touch it, the moment you come to it and touch it. It opens up in you and fills you with Aishwarya. So Ishvara. So it's the same Christ consciousness. So if you were born in a Christian context as a Vedanti, you would say Christ consciousness. And if you're born in the Indian context, you would say Krishna consciousness. But the consciousness that both are referring to, Christ or Krishna consciousness, is the same consciousness, the divine within, which is the bridge between our humanity and our divinity. The divine within, which is conscious of its unity with the Supreme, therefore the Christ consciousness. And that, as we know, if we go by Sri Aurobindo and Mother's words, and that is the psychic. Is the psychic which is seated in the heart of our hearts and is aware of its source, is completely conscious of its origin, its source, and is the bridge between the outer physical, material, mental, vital personality, our existence in the flesh, let's say, and our true existence as Atma in the spirit. So these are all referring to the same reality. So which is why Sri Aurobindo, when he was asked about Christ, said that he was the avatar of love and the avatar of the psychic. So because that's what he represented.
So often I feel that there are two aspects to Christianity as it's understood nowadays. I'm not talking about Gnostic Christianity. There's an external form of the religion with its customs and with its tradition and, and also a theology around Christ, which, as far as I know, Christ did not talk about the theology. He lived. So the theology was created around him, but it often contradicts. And
Yes,
that is something that I've never figured out.
it happens it has happened in Sanatan Dharma. It has happened in Bauddha Dharma. The Buddha never constructed any theology around him. Even this term Buddhist did not exist when he was there. And amongst the last things the Buddha said when he was going to give up his body was not to preserve any of his teachings, because he said, if you preserve my teachings, then it becomes a sort of a shortcut for the follower of truth. And once you start following something that's already handed down to you, you don't reach the truth. You lose the spirit. You may get the body, but you lose the spirit. So the same thing has happened with so many of our own gurus, and the rishis and maharishis of the Sanatan tradition, who have specifically said that the word is not to be heard and preserved, but to be internalized, assimilated, and spiritually realized and lived. So exactly the same thing happened with Christ. If we take the Christ to be one of the rishis that we talk about in the Sanatan Dharma, and he definitely was a rishi, if we go by all that we know of Christ, then obviously he will not say that, whatever I'm teaching you, you put it down in a book and freeze it and follow it. That's not the point. The point is that I'm saying something to you from my living reality. Take it in, assimilate it, eat of it, drink of it, make it one with your own substance. This is the language of Gnostic Christianity. Make it one with thy substance, so that which I give to thee becomes thy substance. You get transubstantiate.
Right, transubstantiate.
So, and this inner awakening that comes is the resurrection. So the resurrection is not physically rising up again. I mean, again, Gnostic Christianity made it so clear that this is a highly metaphorical event. The metaphor is important to grasp, because when you are not living as the soul, you're dead. And when you're awakened as the spirit, the soul, then there's resurrection, then you're resurrected. And once you're resurrected, then you have transcended the mortal plane, as it were. So these are realities hidden in metaphor and symbol. So how would you make that into a theology, into an unchanging belief system? You cannot, because again, the body would be there, but the spirit would be lost. One of the best illustrations of this was, I think, Dostoevsky's book, brilliant way in which he did this.
Right.
And the Christ, in the story, the Christ comes back, and he's told that you have no place on earth because the church won't allow you. And he says, hello, listen, I'm Christ. That's why the church will not want you here. Yeah. So it's a brilliant story and very powerful in what it tells you.
Right.
That the point is not to follow a religion, but to get into the Christ consciousness. That's the whole point of religion. And the moment you enter the Christ consciousness, you don't need the outer religion anymore. Just as we say, the moment you come to Krishna consciousness, you don't need the dharma anymore. The dharma falls off you.
Yes.
And Krishna says that so clearly in the Bhagavad Gita. The moment you have come to me and you've become my-minded, you don't need any dharmas.
When you talked about the symbols, and we will talk about this further, you talked about the metaphor. And to me, these are beautiful metaphors. Even the Garden of Eden, to me, it's a beautiful metaphor. I've never been able to see it as a historical event, but rather a deep metaphor of the human consciousness and what happened to our awareness, and how we are finding that reality within, that truth, and coming up again, and are redeemed. Our redemption is because once we have realized that consciousness.
Yes. I mean, the whole Vedantic, if you're talking metaphor,
Yes.
the Vedantic take on Genesis, for instance, and what happens from the beginning is completely different, and makes this whole symbolism come alive.
Yes.
The Garden of Eden
Yes.
being the symbol of innocence
Yes.
before the experience. Blake that we were talking
Yes,
about the
Blake
other
had
day.
talked
So
about.
the innocence before the experience.
Yes.
So innocence is a beautiful state to be in, but sooner or later it has to, let's use the phrase, fall into experience. And then having fallen into experience, it has to recover itself in the innocence.
Right.
That's the full circle. So traditional Christian theology would say that the apple represents the forbidden fruit, and therefore when Eve bit into it, it was the temptation. But from the Gnostic perspective, it's completely different, because the state of good without a conscious choice of good and evil doesn't make sense. It is good, but it's perfect good. Perfect good means it is unchanging good. Typal good. It's not evolutionary good. Now, if you are talking about incarnating as earth beings, the earth plane, which is an evolutionary plane, as you know from the Vedantic perspective, it's an evolutionary plane. So the moment you come to the evolutionary plane called earth, this perfect good, which is a typal good, has to become evolutionary good. Therefore, you have to have a power of conscious choice between good and evil, so-called evil.
Right.
But to make a conscious choice between good and evil, you have to know the antithesis of good. And that is what the fruit represents, the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil thereof. Right? So when you bite the fruit, you get, again, symbolical. You suddenly get the knowledge of good and its antithesis, which we call evil. And here knowledge doesn't mean theoretical knowledge, of course, it's experiential knowledge. So a fall is inevitable for evolution. Without the fall, there is no evolution of the spirit.
Right.
So the moment you have the knowledge of good and evil, then the power of choice comes. And having known good and having known its antithesis, you make a choice for the good, then that choice has power. It is creative power. It is a real choice. It's not conditioning. Even though it's the perfect condition of good, it's still conditioning. But this is not conditioning, it's will. It's by volition you evolve. So you see, it just makes the whole story, the whole narrative so different.
And if we go further back, in the beginning was the Word.
Yes, and that too, yes. Then again we have to understand word as logos.
Right.
And that will take us straight back to Gnostic Christianity again. What is this logos? What is the word? With whom was this word? In fact, if you go to Gnostic Christianity, the word precedes even God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made God. And God said, let there be light, and so there was light, etc. No. So what is this word that precedes all existence, even the so-called existence of Godhead? What is this word? Obviously, it's not word as logos anymore.
Right.
So these are questions. I mean, they're very important questions. Not theology, really, but more of philosophy.
Perhaps I would say even philosophy cannot really answer, because if you try to answer this, you'll have multiple interpretations.
Yes, but the beauty of philosophy is meant to question.
Right.
We have made philosophy answer. That's our limitation.
Right.
I was going to say that's our stupidity. That's our limitation. We have made philosophy answer, but philosophy was never meant to answer. Philosophy was meant to question.
Right.
It's meant to lead you to a state of eternal questioning.
Right.
And it is in that state of eternal questioning that the true understanding comes. Not answers,
Right.
but understanding, which is very different from answers.
Right. What are we going to do with verbal answers?
Yes, or even thought out
Yeah,
answers.
then
But,
nothing is
but
accomplished.
understanding is a different thing.
Right.
And the deepest understanding we have is wordless understanding, isn't it
Right.
so?
Right.
You see a thing and you just understand. You don't need to, you cannot even perhaps put it in word. You just understand.
Right.
Yeah, I know how it is. How do you know how it is? I don't know. It just came to me. I understand.
Right.
That's how we say it. I understand.
Right.
But you can never verbalize that understanding.
Right.
If you do, of course we can do it, but then we spoil the whole fun.
Yeah. Understanding actually happens. It's not based on a mathematical.
Yes,
something happens.
It just happens.
Something
Yes.
clicks and it's understood.
Yes.
And it's,
So in Vedanta we say understanding is that flash, that glimpse you get of reality, because reality is always there. It's like, things are around you all the time and it's dark and you can't
Right.
see it, and then there's a lightning in the sky.
Right.
And in that flash of lightning, you suddenly see it, and then it's gone.
Right.
But now you've seen it, and what
Right.
you've seen, you cannot unsee.
Right.
So now you know. So you say, I understand,
Right.
because I've seen it.
Right.
So that flash of lightning is understanding. That's what we
Right.
call the intuitive understanding. And then when that flash of lightning becomes permanent flash of lightning, then that's enlightenment that we were talking
Right.
about last time. Then you don't need to ask questions anymore, and you don't need answers anymore, because you see everything as they are.
In fact, one of the most beautiful
Yatha bhutam,
Yatha Bhuta Darshanam.
yatha bhutam darshanam.
Yes.
Yes. So
To see
seeing
things
thing
as they
as it is.
Yeah. To see things as they are.
Yatha bhuta darshanam.
Yes.
Yes.
This also brings me to that famous Mahavakya, the famous statement of Vedanta, Pragyanam Brahman.
Pragyanam Brahma. Yes.
That
Yes.
the insight,
yes,
that
yes,
sudden flash
yes,
of
yes.
understanding
But yes,
is
Pragyanam as the highest knowledge.
highest knowledge. Is that?
Yes, absolutely. And that Pragyanam is Vijnana.
That's right.
It's the knowledge that you do not acquire.
Yeah, it's already there.
You do not come to that knowledge, that you already are that knowledge.
Yes.
You just unlock it.
That's
you
right.
unveil it to yourself, or it unveils itself to you.
Yes. Christ is a very deep subject. A lot of, if we just go into Christ, it's itself a layer
Oh,
by
yes.
layer
Oh,
by layer
yes.
understanding, dimensions, and to every word that he has uttered, at least as we have received in the various books.
Same thing
is-
as going into Krishna. So Swami Vivekananda once said, I think he was in America at that time, and he said that somebody was asking about, going into Christ consciousness or going to Krishna. He said, go into Christ or go into Krishna, how does it matter? But go into the blessed consciousness.
Yes.
So yeah, the blessed consciousness is what you have to go into.
Right, and I think that is the problem, that is probably the biggest problem. Having a paradigm, having a theology is okay. But to create a theology that makes you scared to question,
Yeah.
that has kind of
yes.
blocked our minds. We should be able to go deeper into the questions and be able to explore it.
Yes. And that is something we've often talked about, this confusion between a follower and a disciple, a believer and a disciple.
Mm-hmm.
So what the world has created are groups of believers and followers. What we need are disciples. What's the difference here? A disciple is one who follows the truth. You're always a disciple of the truth, and you follow the discipline of truth. And that's the disciple. So a disciple cannot believe. He's not a believer. A disciple is one who's following the truth to the end, which is what? Which is the truth itself.
Right.
So till you become one with that supreme, absolute truth, you do not cease from your exploring.
Right.
You do not cease from your searching, from your inquiry. So you're a disciple. A believer, the moment he gets a belief, ceases from inquiry, ceases from exploration. And the moment you do that, then you become a follower. You're following something that's already been given to you, following the book, the priest, the church, the temple, the rishi, the guru, whoever you're following, you're still a follower. Where a disciple is if you want to call him a follower, is only the follower of truth.
Yes.
So there's a chapter in that book I've written called How to Become a Hindu, in which we've talked about it. It was a real life conversation between a very close Christian friend of mine
Yes.
and myself.
So, when you're a disciple, you're actually living that truth. You're living that reality.
Yeah.
And so belief is no longer needed because it's actual.
Belief is no longer needed.
Okay. So that...
I mean, do you need to believe that you're sitting here? Can I ask you a question? Do you believe you're sitting here?
No.
The question doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
Because you know you're sitting here.
Right.
So a God knower, a mystic, a disciple cannot answer a question, do you believe God exists? How do you answer that question?
So, I think your message is to live, to experience, to become.
To become.
And realize the divinity that is within.
Yeah. Otherwise, we're just wasting time.
Yes.
In just talking.
So that brings me to my next question, which has come from one of our astute students, shall we say, one in the audience of 3. Is in Vedanta, is there an afterlife? And if it is, what kind of an afterlife are we allowed in Vedanta? I mean, do you have parties? Do you go to the beach? What is it?
Oh, well, the fundamental belief is not the right word. Very difficult to get words, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, as I've written it, the fundamental truth.
Yeah.
But for most people, that doesn't make sense, you know. Either it's a belief or it's a thought or a concept. So whatever word you want to choose. The
understanding.
Truth, as I said in the last conversation we had, the truth around which Vedanta is built.
Right.
The truth around which Sanatan Dharma is built is that one reality. And because that one reality has become this universe, it has also become you and me. Because we are living cosmos. We, you and me, and every other human being, we are the cosmos that has become self-conscious and intelligent and articulate. Expressing itself, the cosmos expressing itself through mind and matter. That's what human beings are. So, it is that one reality, that one cosmic reality that has become the human. And even as we are human, that one cosmic reality is us as the spirit, the soul. And that soul or the spirit is what we are. We call it Atma in Sanskrit. So I am not the body. I am not the mental personality. But I am the soul behind the mental personality and the body. I am upholding the body and the mind. I am expressing myself through the mind and the body. I'm using the mind and the body as instruments, but I am the spirit, I am the soul. And that is my truth, that is my reality. This is Vedanta. So the soul is not material. It's not matter. And it is not mind, so it's not mental. So it's neither mental nor material. If it's neither mental nor material, it does not exist in space, time, or in the web of causes and effects.
Right.
So we say it's beyond space, time, and causation. It is timeless because if it's beyond time, so it's eternal. It has no time. And because it's not material, it has no body. It uses body. But it is itself not body. So it's not material. Therefore, it is neither born, nor does it die. It is, the Gita says, that it is neither born, nor does it decay, nor does it die. It is eternal and goes on timelessly. Universes arise and dissolve, but the soul goes on because it's beyond space and time. Now, it's infinitely difficult for the human mind, which is finite, to grasp this idea of eternal. We use the word so often in our common, in our everyday speech, eternal, eternal. But what does this eternal mean? Last time we had this conversation on the infinite.
Right.
The difficulty of the finite mind understanding the infinite. So exactly in the same way, the difficulty of the finite time-bound mind, the temporal mind, understanding eternally, understanding eternity, the eternal. So now, to respond to your student's question, and it's an astute question, if the self that I am is not material, then where is death? And if the self that I am is not mental, psychological, then where is death? Because what dies in us really? Have we considered that? What is it that when you say I'm going to die, what does that really mean? Only two things in you die. The body falls off and it's buried or cremated or whatever. And your mental personality, the one you identify yourself as.
Right.
Your habits, your patterns, your knowledge, your beliefs, your
memories,
all the psychodrama of your existence. Sorry?
Memories?
Your memories, yes, your projections, all the projections, all the memories, all that, the mind in you, that's your mental personality, and that's what you identify yourself as. So when you say, I'm going to die, it's that personality that you're talking about, that I will cease to be that person I know myself to be. And when others around you say that, oh no, he's going to die, what they're talking about is this personality that they know you as is going to dissolve. So when I don't want to die, no man or woman, no human being wants to die because they want to preserve this mental personality and this physical existence, knowing full well that the physical existence cannot be preserved beyond a point. And so far, I don't know about the technology of the future. And the mental personality also cannot be preserved because the mental personality anyway is changing almost on a daily basis. And the mental personality that you were and identified yourself as 20 years ago is no longer what you are today. So there is no death. Therefore, where is the question of an afterlife? So Hindus talk about reincarnation. But the Vedanti does not. For the Vedanti, reincarnation, afterlife, these things they exist, but they exist for the body and mind. They don't exist for the self that you are. The self that you really are, you're beyond it all. So there's no afterlife. There is only life which is eternal. There's only eternal life.
But then what about the psychic being that bears the life each individual and then...
Yes, the psychic being is a continuity.
Right.
If you believe that there is a psychic being, and even better if you've experienced yourself as a psychic being, then you know that A, you are eternal, you will not end, your body will fall off, your mental personality will dissolve, but you as the self will go on. That's the psychic being. And the psychic being knows what it is. It is conscious of itself. It's conscious of its origin. So it doesn't die. It knows that the moment of so-called death is coming. If you're living in your psychic, then you know that the time has come where your body has to be given up. Now, very interesting things happen when you know yourself as the psychic. Because when you know yourself as the psychic, the inner self, the true self that you are, then you also know that this mental personality that you project of yourself to the world outside is not you.
Right.
And you're also completely conscious of how it's changing by the moment. It's a continuously changing thing. And because you have identified yourself with your psychic, with your true self within, the Atma, the true self within, you no longer identify with the mental personality. So you more or less let go of the mental personality. There's nothing to hold your mental personality together. The will that's needed to hold it. You've withdrawn that will. You have transferred that will of identification to the self, the soul. So the mental personality simply dissolves and falls apart. And you don't even have to die for it. Even while you're alive, you're free from all mental personalities. All mental and vital personalities drop away from you. You can use them, however. I mean, if you're in a practical life, and if I have to interact with you, then I have to bring my friend personality and keep it there. If I sit in front of you in my true state with no personality, you won't be able to interact with me. We won't be able to interact. It'll be very difficult.
Yes.
We'll probably exist in complete silence, and you'll go your way, I'll go mine.
Right.
Yeah, but to experience, enjoy, relish, savor, even a moment together, I have to bring, and you have to bring the personality back.
Right.
But then we are just bringing the personality to have fun, let's say,
Right.
as friends. And once that is done, the personality is gone again. And you're back into the silence of yourself. So you're free of mental personality. Now, tell me, if you are experiencing that state all the time, and I come and tell you that, sir, do you want to experience an afterlife? Do you want to live again in the next life? What will you say? Which me? Who are you talking to? I don't even live myself this lifetime. What next lifetime are you talking about? Won't you say that?
Yes.
Because the whole question of afterlife will be irrelevant to you. I mean, what are you talking about? So the psychic self knows it. And the psychic self knows when the body has to be dropped. And it can even determine when it has to drop the body. Because being the psychic self, once you are identified with it, you're no longer subject to nature, to the determinations of nature. You can actually determine that in this way, at this time, I will give up this body. And that's how you do it, consciously. You give up the body consciously. And there's nothing in the mind to give up anyway, because your mind is in such a silent state that there is no mind. So you just drop the body. Now what happens to you once you drop the body? So, this is my phone. I identify with it in a manner of speaking. I use it. And I'm conscious that I'm using it. I keep it well. I keep it clean. I take care of it. And then I let it drop. Now what happens to me? I would let it drop. I still am. Exactly as I was before. I can have one phone or 10 phones. It doesn't matter. So exactly the same thing with the body. I drop the body. I still remain intact exactly as I was before, but now outside of time and space, because I've given up the material sheaths. But I still am. And now exactly as I have been able to determine how I give up this body, I can determine how I take on the next. Oh, you know what? I'm going to be born in that family, in those circumstances. And that is how I'm going to live the first few years of my life till my full memory recall comes back to me. And then I take another birth. So that's how it goes.
It all depends on what I identify with.
Yes.
If I identify with the body, then the body will die.
Yes. And then you will die with it.
And then I die with
so
it.
you'll be afraid of dying because your
I'm
whole
dying.
existence is
Oh my
body.
God, yeah.
Yeah.
And then my mind, which is so dear to me sometimes,
Yeah.
is going to be gone. Oh my God, what am I going to do without the mind?
So then you will create stories of lives and afterlives and
Right.
reincarnations and all that in your mind.
Right. But if I don't identify with all these, and let me put it, if there is no identification with the mind or the body, then we're talking about a different quality, a different way of being.
Yeah. So when the identification with the mind, the mental personality, the mental vital personality, the manomaya, pranamaya.
Manomaya and pranamaya.
Yes. When you no longer identify with that personality and you no longer identify with the body, you are using the body.
Yes.
You're enjoying the body.
Right.
But you're not identified with the body.
Right.
So when these three identifications, these are called our fundamental identification, mool sayujya. When these three are given up, then you are automatically identified with the self that you are. Your true, in the language of Vedanta, your true identity is then established. And what is your true identity? The self, the eternal self that you are. Now, this eternal self, we say eternal self because the self simply doesn't exist in time.
Yes.
You and many people say, ask me at that point, then how do you know?
Yeah.
What's the proof?
What's the proof?
Of course, there's no empirical proof. It's not a proof that I can show it to you in a laboratory. But the proof is there. The evidence comes to you in form of experience. Memories of several lives that you've lived keep coming back to you. First, they come to you as dreams. You begin to dream of people you've never met in this lifetime, places you've never visited, things that you've never done in this lifetime. And first, if you're well read enough, you ascribe it to the subconscious, things that I may have experienced somewhere and I've forgotten, because the subconscious records everything.
Right.
So you think that it's that. So fine, to a large extent, it's that. But then certain dream experiences begin to happen to you, which are undeniably of some other lifetime, because you begin to see the setting, the circumstances around you, which you know is not this lifetime. And very interesting experiments can be done. You can come back and do some research and see, was that thing really there? And you said, oh, wow, that thing exactly was there, but that was 1865. So what was I doing dreaming of something in 1865? My subconscious mind was not there at that time. I wasn't recording anything. But you let go of it because there are no answers. People will come and tell you, this is it, that is that, past life regression, etc., etc. But don't accept anything. That's the meaning of a student of Vedanta.
A disciple.
You don't let go. A disciple of truth. You question everything. A disciple of truth, I said, is not a believer because she or he doesn't give up questioning. Every experience that comes, she or he questions that experience. A disciple questions his own experiences. Till he or she gets to the bottom of it. He accepts no other answer from anyone. However exalted that source may be, he doesn't accept it from any source. That's a disciple, one who follows to the end. So you keep questioning everything. Every dream you question. And then you read and things start, you start connecting the dots. And then you begin to see, maybe, it's happening. Past lives are beginning to come in. So then you start paying attention. That's the most important thing that happens in the Vedantic process. Then you start paying attention to all your experiences. And then you start experiencing that, I'm not just experiencing life at this level. I'm experiencing a whole lot of things which I've never paid attention to. A person comes to you and you get, I know this person. He's like that or she's like that, and we've met before, but in your memory that I've never met this person in this lifetime, but you've met. So you're already connecting the dots. So that I've met this person in some other lifetime. Now I have to pay attention, real close attention to know how and when. So you start paying attention to the person and you start going beyond the outer personality. Things start jumping at you from inside. You start suddenly looking deeper, listening deeper. You start listening to things you've never heard before. You start seeing things you've never seen before. Suddenly, your life becomes that much richer, deeper. It's as if another dimension was being added. And then you want to pay even more attention. Then you start meditating. Meditation is the highest form of attention you can pay. As you know, in Sanskrit, meditation is dhyan. Dhyan is attention. So the condition of dhyan is paying complete attention. Then you really start paying attention. And when you really start paying attention, these experiences that are coming to you in flashes, in glimpses, dreams, now begin to become real. Now you have the first little command over these experiences. You just concentrate and in your mind that you've done this before. This has happened before. So that is how the proof comes to you, that there is a self within which is not of this lifetime only. And then, of course, there's a whole process which we can't go into of self-realization. So then you just go on paying more and more attention. The whole journey of Vedanta is paying more and more attention. So who is the disciple? How to become the disciple? It's a very important question. So how to become the disciple? By pay attention. The more you pay attention, the more of a disciple you become. People then ask me, okay, fine, I want to become a disciple of the truth. How do I pay attention. To what do I pay attention? To what you're doing right now. Oh, right now, I'm playing golf. So pay attention to your golf. Pay attention to everything around you when you play golf. Not just the shot that you're going to take, but to how you're feeling, what your body is like, what's the atmosphere around you, what are you breathing in. Pay granular attention to the experience you're having right now. That is the attention you have to pay. Then you stop playing golf, you come back home. You're back at home with your family, your children, your wife, your breakfast, and whatever, Pay attention. We don't. Hardly anyone pays attention to the bread that you're eating, to the quality of the toast, to the quality of the coffee that you're having. So you have to pay attention, granular attention. So the more attention you pay to every experience in your life, and experience is not that, spiritual experience, physical experience, great experience, small experience. Experience is experience. And you pay deep attention to experience, and you have become a disciple of truth. You've become a disciple. And for one who pays attention, you can never get stuck with belief. Isn't it? If you're really attentive to everything, you're not going to get stuck with the belief. Belief is fossilized. Paying attention is living. So, I don't know if I've been able to answer. These are some of the most difficult questions to answer. Like, what is the proof? Very difficult to say what is the proof. Yes, there is proof. And more real than the proofs of science. But those are empirical proofs. You can see it. But these are proofs of experience. You have to experience it. So many people ask me, then that makes it extremely subjective. But no, it doesn't. There is an objectivity to it. And what is this objectivity? The experiences that I can have on the path of Vedanta, the process, method of Vedanta, you can do exactly the same thing and have same or similar experiences. So if I say that these are the steps to paying attention, step 1, 2, 3, and I do this and I come to this level of attentiveness, you also do that. Here it is, step 1, 2, 3. Go do it. And if you sincerely go and do it, you will also come to exactly the same thing that I've come to. And that is living proof. This is objective. But yes, you have to do that homework.
Traditionally, in Vedanta, there are 3 kinds of pramanas accepted, which we call evidence or proof. And the one is sakshatkar, which is seeing for yourself.
Yes. Sakshatkar, right. Pratyaksh praman.
Pratyaksh.
Pratyaksh praman is the first, the irrefutable, most irrefutable evidence you can have. I have seen it.
Yes.
Sakshatkar, as you said.
Right. So pratyaksh, aksha is eyes.
Yes.
And pratyaksh, so you have faced
Right.
it, you have seen it.
Yes.
You have beheld it, as it is said. And which is why the term in India was not philosophy, it was darshana.
Right.
Darshana is to see.
Right. So same root.
Same root.
Yes.
Drish. Drish is to see.
Yes.
So once you have seen it, then it's
Yes.
that is your evidence.
Yes. And then you are known as the seer, one who has seen.
Right. Drashta, or
Drashta.
one who has seen it. Okay. So one
And
is
the
that.
rishi is also a drashta.
Right. The rishi is a drashta. So I guess that is one proof, which is what you're talking about. You have to see it for yourself, and you have to keep looking, keep seeing.
Yes.
And the questioning is not just an intellectual questioning. The questioning is a deeper seeing.
Yes. And here it's a very important point you've mentioned. So we must also mention that the seeing is not a physical seeing.
Right.
Because most people would then think, I have to see it.
Yeah.
But this is not a physical seeing. This is an inner seeing, an inner perception.
Right.
The way you know something inwardly. The seeing is actually knowing, inner seeing, the same terms.
Right. And then the other evidence is shabda.
Shabda, yes.
Someone's word, someone who has realized the truth, someone who's wiser. You take the word for it. Just take my word for
trust.
Someone you trust.
Someone you trust is telling you the truth.
Right. So you just take it for what it is.
Yes. And then follow it.
Follow it. So that is the second. It's considered an evidence. And the third is, of course, anumana. You take,
Yeah.
you connect. You
Right.
kind of deduce it.
Yes.
When you study all this, and then as your mind becomes subtler, you start seeing a wider picture, things connecting, the web. Then you start deducing from it what would be the nature of the world. So those are the
So
three.
that's when your thought comes in.
Thought comes in, yes, but it's a refined thought.
Yeah, it's a
It
refined
is not a
thought.
coarse, crude way of thinking, which is looking for a reward or
This is reason of a very high order.
yes, a deeper. And at some point, it becomes that seeing itself gives you that
Right.
anumana, that deduction, or that rationalization, that reasoning.
Right.
There are others in Sankhya. There are other evidences, but these are in Vedanta. I believe these are the three most. For example, if you're seeing smoke, then there must be a fire.
Yes.
So you start deducing it, and as you keep testing, and there's a lot of testing involved, and people don't realize. If we read Sri Aurobindo's records, he tested every time he had a perception.
The way of the disciple.
Right, the disciple will test it, and it'll beat it up until it's confirmed.
Yes.
Not as a verbal thing, but as his own reality.
So you validate it in your own experience.
Yes.
This validation is the hallmark of a disciple.
Right.
A believer, for instance, will not validate.
No, just take it.
He or she will just accept it. But a disciple will have to validate it.
Right.
Validate it by, exactly as you said, through experience, through reasoning. Not just one way, through experience, through reasoning. And there are many instances in Vedanta where even after having experienced it oneself, one often comes back to the scriptures to verify that, I am on this track, that, it's not just a subjective experience. Then one often goes and talks to people who have also experienced it, because once you begin to experience, you know who's experiencing. So you go and you have this dialogue. You have a dialogue.
Right.
So all that is also going on. You don't give up.
You had talked a little bit about the challenges that humanity is facing. We talked about the illusionism. You talk about the dukkhavad, which is not really, that the world is not really a world of sorrow. We talked about Christ. But when we really look at the world, it's such a mess. I mean, yes, it is on... You're telling me that it's all good. That reality, the truth is connecting with me, is here. I feel I am united with that one reality. But still, this world is a mess, is it not?
Yes, it is a mess. Obviously, one can't deny that. It is a mess everywhere.
And why? If the reality is connected to us,
why am I? My answer is very simple here, because I know this is my truth, that human beings are an evolving species, and Sri Aurobindo says this beautifully, that humanity is a transitional species. We are transiting from subhuman consciousness to a divinized or divine consciousness, superhuman consciousness. So when we are subhuman, we are happy. There's no complication. We live as everything is primitive. We live as savages and everything is fine. And then as superhuman, again, there's no problem. The problem is in the transition from subhuman to superhuman, which we are right now transiting through. So human beings are work in progress. It's still a process going on. So you cannot judge a process till it has reached its end point, which is the product. We're not products of evolution yet. We are processes of evolution. So it's like being with a group of kids or playing, and doing all kinds of things, and you probably just sit and watch them, perhaps with a bit of amusement, always a detached amusement, and then kids are playing. They'll play. It's the stuff kids do. So what if they're hurting each other, and one of the kids happens to be more aggressive than the others, and one a bit more violent, and the third one a bit more passive? This is nature, and kids are playing, and the one who's aggressive will learn from the one who's passive a bit about passivity, and the one who's passive will learn from the aggressive a bit about aggressiveness, and go on to become a bit more aggressive, passive. Like they learn from each other. So we can't sit there and say it's a mess.
No.
You see the mess, but it's a mess right now.
Right.
As things will turn out well, the mess will go. They will all grow up. Human beings will eventually grow up. We will eventually grow up, and I know it. The only thing is that we don't destroy ourselves before we grow up.
Right.
Because kids do that. They're self-destructive. So I only hope we don't destroy ourselves before we, at least a majority of us, are grown up enough to tell the others, hey, guys, chill, relax.
That's easier said than done,
Easier,
is it not?
of course, easier said than done. But there's another way that, and this is the yogic way. Out of this bunch of kids, there are some who are growing up. There are some who have outgrown a lot of their childhood.
Right.
And they have begun to they've begun to live a different life. They live in a different consciousness, a grown-up consciousness, let's say, a mature consciousness, a more evolved consciousness. And the more people who do that, the more individuals who live in a more grown-up consciousness, it makes a difference to those who are not growing up that fast. It has what do you call it? It infects.
Contagion.
It's a contagion. Mother called it contagion of light.
Right.
So this is a contagion of consciousness. You do infect others with your higher consciousness, just as people with a lower consciousness can also infect others with their lower consciousness. So for me, again, the hope is at least some of us who are growing up should very consciously radiate that truth or that consciousness that is coming to us. If you're one of those who are beginning to open up to a higher consciousness, or beginning to open to a higher consciousness, then one of the first things that you do is to direct that consciousness outwardly to, not you know what I mean.
Yes.
It's all done very quietly. It's done subliminally almost, but and consciousness has this thing of moving, and you can't hoard consciousness. You can't keep consciousness to yourself. It's impossible. It's like flowing water to yourself. The water will flow. The consciousness will flow, and it will go through you, and it'll do good everywhere. Wherever this consciousness touches, it'll do good. That's what Vedanta knows. And for yoga, that's what yogis do. Most of the yogis, they don't even have to go out physically anymore to meet people. They can sit in their isolation and do more good to humanity than thousands of people trying to do good to humanity put together.
So how do I change the world? Okay, so I understood kind of Sanatan Dharma, and I want to change the world, make it better right away. How do I do that?
Very simple.
Okay, tell me.
Very simple. Bring the light into yourself and fix the light in yourself. That's important. Fixing the light within oneself. Become completely, ruthlessly aware of every single human twist inside yourself. Become ruthlessly conscious of every immaturity within yourself. Don't judge yourself. Don't look upon yourself as unfit or unclean or sinful or bad. No, nothing called bad or sinful. There is no sin. There is no bad. But everything is growing. As I said, work in progress. So you don't look at a caterpillar and you don't like caterpillars and you say, what an ugly thing, and you kill it. You wait for the butterfly, which is going to be such a beautiful thing. And then you don't look at the butterfly and say, oh, it was so ugly. That ugliness is subsumed and transformed in the beauty of the butterfly. So human beings are like that. We are all caterpillars moving towards some sort of a metamorphosis within ourselves. So if you want to do good to the world, there are two things. One is, how much of the butterfly am I becoming? And two is, how much of this consciousness of the butterfly can I send out to the world as consciously as I can? So that's how I think we can impact and transform the world. But what is very, very important is to do this continuous, really, 24/7 work within ourselves. Catch hold of every twist, every distortion, every shadow within ourselves, and transform them to light, to more light, to more light. The more we do that, the more the work gets done on earth. The more people grow up, because finally we are all on the same boat.
Right.
We all sink together, we sail together.
Right.
So if we are growing, inevitably the others too will grow. It's a question of who pulls, what is the strength of those who are pulling us down into more degenerate states, going back to resting in the subhuman, because it's very comfortable. Don't disturb me, let me rest in the subhuman. It's easy. Whereas to pull oneself upward towards light is very difficult work.
So you talked about evolution, and we hear a lot of controversy between evolutionism and creationism. And we talked about the image of creation, the metaphor of creation. But how does evolution work?
That's different. By evolution, you're talking about evolution of the species as against creation of the species in Earth.
Right. Evolution of the universe.
Yeah. So I'm talking about evolution of consciousness.
Uh-huh.
Because for me, the evolution it's already, you just have to study science. It's already, you just look at matter and you know what's happening. You just have to, what do you say, follow the money.
Follow the money.
In
That's
this
the
case,
American way.
You just follow the molecule.
Okay. So I follow the molecule. What do I find?
It will take you back to the beginning of the universe, and you will see the whole thing unravel, and you will know exactly what evolution is.
So walk me through that. I can't. I'm trying to go back and I'm getting stuck. I
so
follow
if you
the
start
money.
with the mind and
Right.
with the cosmos as we are,
Right.
and start tracing it to its origin. So there'll be two things happening. One is the body, my physical existence. The other is my mental existence.
Yes.
So if I start going into my mental existence, taking it to its, tracing it back, as it were, it'll all start coming apart. Before I know it, I'll be a 3-month-old infant.
Yes.
With nothing in the mind, because you'll just unravel it, isn't it?
Yes.
So all my present knowledge and all the things that I'm saying and doing, everything is there because I've put it all together so carefully over the years.
Right.
My knowledge, my processing of the knowledge, my understanding and all that. Suddenly all that will just fall apart. You just have to look at people who have had strokes. And it affects certain centers of the brain, and you would know that. And they have reverted to a childhood personality. All that is gone. It's fallen apart. So if you do that, you will revert to what you were just when you were born, a baby, a wailing baby.
Right. Now we have patients with dementia, patients who lose their memory.
Which are actually showcases. That tells you exactly how it all unravels back to a state of chaos.
Right.
And then you will go to the point of birth.
Right.
You can go that far. And then at the point of birth, there is no mind. The mind has disappeared.
Right.
Mind and mental personality, where's finished.
Right.
So it's just the biology, the biological entity called the body. So you keep doing the same process. You keep going to the source, trace it back. And you'll go through your parents, and then their parents, and then their parents, and then their parents. You're going back
Genetics,
till
yes.
You're probably back at the first cell. That's all cells have come from there. including the cells which have become this body.
Hmm.
And then you don't stop, you keep going into the cell. The cell will also unravel itself. And you'll just see molecules swimming around. And then you'll see atoms, nuclei of atoms, and then quantum particles, and the deep end. Suddenly everything comes apart and you have nothing but singularity. Come to the beginning of the universe. Now reverse the whole thing, you have evolution. Continuously increasing organization, differentiation, functional differentiation, temporal differentiation, spatio-temporal differentiation. Then, which finally becomes intelligence. Life first, of course, becomes organized. The organization and differentiation evolves to life, and then life to intelligence, intelligence to self-consciousness, self-consciousness to super-consciousness. So it's all there.
So evolution is that reality is evolving itself out of its own Maya, would you say?
In a way, yes, precisely. Out of its own Maya, we understand Maya to be that force which is differentiating itself from the non-differentiated.
Right. So the infinite has created out of itself.
Yes, the infinite has made itself finite.
Made itself finite and is evolving.
As the cosmos.
As the cosmos.
Cosmos is the infinite that has made itself finite. That's
right.
Cosmos.
Right.
And all forms within it, all cosmic forms, including you and me, right. is that infinite which has made itself finite.
Right. Now, in that finitude, it is evolving to a higher and higher level of organization and
yes.
refinement.
Organization, differentiation, refinement, sophistication, all that.
So to experience differently, to reach to manifest
yes,
itself?
Yes. So see, the infinite becomes finite, but it's not just one finite.
Right.
It becomes infinitely finite.
Right.
So the infinite making itself infinitely finite.
Right.
And in each finite, realizing itself as the infinite.
Right.
What a game. What a delightful game.
Oh.
And if you can even imagine that kind of an experience happening in your consciousness, I mean, that's delight to beat all delights. And that's the final justification of all existence.
And what is the justification?
Sheer delight of it all. The delight of being. The delight of becoming.
But what about the pain? There is so much
no pain.
I'm hurting.
No one's hurting.
Tell me about it.
No one really hurts. We hurt because we identify with pain. Tell me who hurts.
I'm hurting right now.
Tell me why.
My thumb is hurting. I have a little arthritis.
Oh, that's physical.
Right. It's hurting.
That's physical.
Then I saw a patient who was not listening to me.
I'm not
I was
joking,
hurting.
Seriously.
But I'm serious.
Yeah. So if you have pain.
Yes.
And not too many people believe me till I take them with me.
Okay.
There are places in the Himalayas, ashrams in the remote Himalayas.
Yes.
Where there is this yogi sitting.
Yes.
Just probably wearing a loincloth.
Yeah, I've seen them.
You've seen them.
Yes.
When the temperature is freezing -4, -5
that's correct.
Celsius.
Yes.
And I'm just sitting there as if, no.
Yeah, that's true. I've seen
I've had personal experience. And I go and sit next to him like that, and I need something. And he says, "Why are you wearing all this? Look at me, bare-bodied."
Yes.
And I tell him, "Sir, you're a yogi." He says, "Throw away all those blankets." Throw away. I throw. He makes me take off my shirt.
Yeah.
And it's freezing cold.
Right.
And I know I'm going to catch the death of a cold here. I came for yoga, I'm going to die. I sit there shivering. And suddenly, believe it, I start feeling warm.
Really?
First I stop shivering. And then I'm comfortable. And then I start feeling warm. I said, this is impossible. It's not happening.
Right.
Just because I'm sitting next to this man. And I said, okay, even if this is hypnosis.
Yes.
Damn it, I'm feeling warm.
Right.
If that's hypnosis, so be it.
Right.
I don't need a shirt. If you call that hypnosis, fine. Great hypnosis. But I know it's hypnosis. It's not hypnosis. Hypnosis is mental stuff.
Right.
This is physical.
Real.
I'm warm. From feeling like all that
right.
to I'm actually feeling warm.
Right.
And then I know how this man is sitting through the nights, December nights in
Right.
freezing cold. Then you said that, I have this pain.
Yeah.
And he takes your hand, he just does this and said, pain, where's the pain? Where's the pain? Show me the pain, where's the pain? And you have no pain. And you say, hey, hello, it was here just now. So you say, this is hypnosis. For heaven's sake, it's going to come back tomorrow. Then you wait. It doesn't come back, it's gone. So you go back that this is a miracle. You say, no, it's not miracle, it's science. Pain is here, not here.
Right, that's correct.
The brain center.
That's correct.
When you take a painkiller, it doesn't affect here. It switches this off. It
Right.
does something to the neurons here, and you
Right.
don't feel the pain. Now, suppose I get into your head right now through my consciousness. Consciousness to consciousness. Switch off the pain thing here. You won't feel the pain and you won't need medicine. It's as simple as that. Science. They call it yogic science.
Okay.
They use it in Ayurveda on a regular basis. I don't know how much of it remains even now. There are very few pockets, very few individuals who still have that old yogic Ayurveda. But I know them. No pain exists. Then he tells us that modern urban human beings, they nurse their pain. They are attached to their pain. They live lives that are aligned to pain. They say a person like that who does that to you, and you say that, it's going to come back when I go back. He says, I'll tell you how it will come back, he says. He doesn't
you
lie
want
to
it
you.
back.
He says it will come back because you believe in it.
Right.
Your brain is wedded to that damn pain there.
Right,
So it
that's
will come back. But if you don't want it to come back, start doing things that I tell you now. It will never come back, no matter what the pain is.
Okay.
Arthritis is supposed to be incurable. I know people who have cured themselves completely of arthritis. Because the pain is there in your physical memory. Mother used to call it the memory of the physical consciousness. There's a physical consciousness in us, which remembers things and gets stuck. You know that.
Yes.
When the mother talks about the physical mind, Sri Aurobindo
Physical
mother
mind.
call it.
Yes.
So the physical mind is that which says that, it's a very cold morning,
Yes.
and if I don't put on a jacket, I'm going to catch a cold. And then you actually catch a cold.
Yes.
Why? Because your physical mind believes it
It
should.
believes. That's correct.
Mother used to say that's how we grow old. Every year they say happy birthday, and I'm 1 year older, therefore I should grow old. After 10 years you do grow old.
Yes.
But if your physical mind doesn't believe in it, you will actually slow down your aging to the point of reversing it.
Right.
So the yogis say that everything in your body can be reversed if you start living consciously. But most of you people who come to me that's what he told me, from the cities, you don't live consciously, you don't live healthy, you don't live consciously.
Yes.
You're eating all kinds of junk, you're breathing in air that is not doing any good to you. You're doing work which is not good for you. You people work like donkeys. In fact, he said that even donkeys don't work like that.
That's correct.
They will work 4 hours and then they will just sit down. So you people work like donkeys, and you people are doing things that you don't love doing only for this thing that you call money. You've created this thing called money in your story. There's stories in your head about money and success with money, and therefore I'm successful, etc. So you have created stories, and then you get caught up in your stories.
Right.
And then you live unhealthy lives, you're stressed out lives, and then you come to me and you say, I have pain. Of course you'll have pain. So it is in that sense I say, there is no pain, no one hurts. Emotional hurt is the most childish of all things. Emotional, physical hurt, I still give it a bit of importance because, if you're not conscious, it takes you a long time to become conscious. Till then, you have accumulated these pains. So I have some sympathy for you.
Yes.
Physical pain, in Hindi we say bechara. Physical pain, poor man.
Poor guy. Yes.
Poor guy. But emotional pain, I have no sympathy, zero
Why?
sympathy. Because that's stupidity. All emotional pain is egoistic.
Really?
It's absolutely. Tell me one emotional pain which is not of the ego.
Well, if you're in love with someone and that person doesn't respond.
So if you're in love with someone, that person cannot hurt you anyway. If that person can hurt you, you're not in love with that person anyway. We don't think that way. Because we are not in love. Hardly anyone is in love. We are in lust.
Okay.
We are not in love. We are in need.
Right.
We are not in love. If you're in love,
Right.
love as Vedanta, even yoga, mother used to define love. Vedanta defines love as self-giving, period.
Self-giving.
That's it. What is love? Self-giving. 2 things the mother used to say. Love is self-giving and paying attention. So you're sitting here and you're thirsty.
Right.
I'm sitting and I know it. I get
Offer
up,
you the water.
give you water. I've paid attention. That's love. Love is not saying I love you.
No?
Love is paying attention. And love is self-giving. Now, as our yogis say, it's not possible to come to self-giving without paying attention. Self-giving itself is an act of attention, an act of infinite, tender attention. So if you've come to that kind of love, which is self-giving and paying complete attention, who can hurt you? Not the person you love. Because what gets hurt? I always ask this question when people talk about getting hurt. My first question and only question, who gets hurt? Who or what in you gets hurt? There's only one answer. The ego in me gets hurt. I don't want to get hurt. I want to preserve myself, protect myself. I know, my self-image or my desires or my expectations. Right. You get hurt when your expectations are not met. Whose expectations? Yours.
Right.
So you again create stories in your mind. So you get hurt. You take yourself too seriously. Anyone who takes himself or herself too seriously is inevitably going to get hurt. So the trick, the yogic key is never take yourself seriously. Never take anything seriously. Take only one thing seriously, the life that you're living. Are you paying attention? Are you conscious? Take that seriously. Nothing else needs to be taken seriously at all. So who gets hurt, sir?
So suppose you see someone getting hurt on the road, someone got hit by the car.
No, that's again different. Someone getting hit by the car.
And I'm feeling pain.
You go and do whatever you need to do to protect that person. You don't just walk by. You will do what needs to be done. You will pick up that person, take him to the ER and get things. All that will happen. But you will not get identified. You will not start crying. This has happened. Pratitya samutpanna. Now, tell me. You won't believe this. But I'll tell you anyway. Because we are talking yoga.
Yes.
This person leaves this house at 10:02.
Right.
Because he was supposed to leave at 10.
Right.
And his kid comes and says, you know what, fix this for me.
Yes.
So you, all right, and you just fix it and you leave the house at 10:02 instead of 10.
Right.
Now this car that's coming, it is supposed to cross you by at 10.
Right.
You're supposed to leave at 10. The car is supposed to cross you at, let's say, 10:02.
Right.
And at the precise moment, at that velocity and that trajectory, it's supposed to pass you by. Now you leave at 10:02, so you reach this point at 10:04.
Right.
Now this car, as it's leaving, is not supposed to come to you at 10:04. But because you're late, that it's supposed to pass you by at time A, it actually comes to you at time B, where this person who's driving gets a call, which he's supposed to get at 10:04.
Right.
Gets a call. For a second, he gets distracted and boom, hits you. Now, that's called pratitya samutpanna.
Yes, everything is connected.
Everything in this universe is connected. If you had left 2 minutes earlier, not 2 minutes, actually 30 seconds earlier, it would have just whisked past you. So when you look at the universe as the Buddha does, the Buddha says nothing is an accident.
Okay.
Everything, that car has hit you because at the beginning of the universe, it was seeded.
Okay.
That moment of hitting you was seeded into the very beginning of the universe.
To the fabric?
The fabric of the universe, pratitya samutpanna. There's nothing you can do about it.
I can go back and change it if I'm a yogi?
Okay, so to go back and change it, you know what all you have to do? You have to stop your kid from coming and telling you, fix this.
How do I do that?
Now, the kid comes and tells you, fix this, because just a few minutes ago, it fell off his hand. It fell out of his hand and he needed you to fix it. Why did it fall out of his hand? Because his mom screamed at him, hey, don't do that, don't go there. And it fell out of his hand. So you have to go to the mom. Why did you scream at that time?
Right.
So the mom screamed at that, and because at that precise moment she remembered that she had to give a check and she's forgotten to give the check. And she picks up the phone to call you to say, call her husband to say that, and then she sees the child and screams at the child. And why did the thought come to her at that precise moment? You know what I'm saying? You have to go back.
Go back further.
So you go on go back to change, and you reach the beginning of the universe. The Buddha used to say, to change even the drop of a leaf, you have to change the universe.
So you have to become...
What will yoga do?
What will yoga do? Tell me.
So now what yoga will do is, the yogi will see this moment of intersection.
Right.
And he said that this guy is going to get hit. So the kid will come, fix it. And you're fixing it.
Right.
Now, this is called yogic intervention. And please bear me out.
Right.
A thought will suddenly come to you that when did I buy this for this? Or some thought will come, something like, I was supposed to do this in the office. Just a second's distraction. And you're going to fix it, it doesn't fix. So again, you take it. Let me pay attention. Let me fix it. Now it has taken 5 seconds more.
Right.
In that 5 seconds, the car won't hit you. So you have changed reality without changing the universe. So Sri Aurobindo was once asked, how does that happen?
Right.
So Sri Aurobindo says, because nothing exists as real. Everything is a play of probability. And this infinite play of probabilities is poised on the pin of a head, as it were. That delicate. That in a second, the universe can go this way. In a second, the universe can go this way. It depends on how conscious you are of the workings of the universe. That's the meaning of pay attention. Be conscious and you'll know how the universe works. Most of the time, as again, Sri Aurobindo himself once observed, most of the time the yogi will not intervene. Sometimes he will. That's called the grace. Most of the time he will not. He's okay. The car is supposed to hit him. He'll get hurt and he'll get well. And because he'll get hurt and he'll get well, 20 years down the line, this will come to him, and this would never come to him if this hadn't happened. Therefore, let it happen. So the yogic intervention is very rare. Once in a while that grace comes, but the one who knows, the yogi who knows, also knows what each action leads to, sometimes including death.
Well, we talked about death. So if death
Which
is only of the body.
Therefore, you know what can lead. I mean, even death becomes a play of life, the play of the possibilities of life.
But hold on. Let's go back on the suffering side. I'm not perfectly
All right with it.
Comfortable with the suffering. So I have patients who are hurting. Yes, they have emotional pain. They have physical pain. I'm talking about personal example, right? They're hurting.
All right.
Yes, they were abused when they were children. And it's not in their hands. They were abused. Little girl was hurt.
Yes.
And she's carrying that for 50 years and she's manifesting that pain in her life and in everybody's life.
Yes.
And as a physician, really, there is nothing I can do.
There is things that you can do. As a physician, there's hardly anything you can do. As a yogi physician, there's a lot you can do.
Okay. What can you do?
So a yogi sees through and begins to see layers of pratitya samutpanna behind the thing that's happening.
Right.
And a yogi does not see in the frame of one lifetime. There are several lifetimes.
Right. Oh, and of the family and of the
and not just the individual. But,
yes.
It's a unbelievably complex web.
Right.
Of causes and effects. And the deeper you see, and a yogi sees very deep, the more layers you can see. And you can see the suffering of this child going back probably a few lifetimes, and you can see exactly why this has happened in this lifetime, why this child has suffered.
Right.
And what this suffering has now become for this grown-up child. And having seen all that, you know exactly what to resolve in her. Not probably this lifetime. This is like real deep psychoanalysis. Or what would you call it? Psychological healing?
Yes.
What do you call it? So this is like real deep level psychological healing. Because you're healing at levels beyond the lifetime of the person. Where the real problem is, you undo it there. And then it gets undone right here. And that which you're holding, which is going to cause a lot of suffering and even disease. Almost all diseases are caused by things you hold within yourself. So all that is released. And you come to health, and you don't even know how all this has happened. It's like a miracle, because you will never know how this has happened. But it has happened because your physician also happened to be a yogi who saw things that the ordinary physician would never even think of seeing.
But hold on. But even as a physician, if you're a good physician, I'm talking about a good, practical, real life physician. We're not,
not a yogi physician.
So you're compassionate, you smile, you comfort them,
all that is
you're
important.
Healing words. You don't have really no medicine is going to help this.
Right.
The pain, that deep pain that is being carried. So obviously a smile is obviously better than medicines.
Right.
Very often your kind word, your look in the eyes, a deep compassion.
Right.
But isn't there pain? That is pain, no? That person.
There is pain. That's a result.
Right.
and multiple layers behind it.
Right.
What I'm saying is you don't get identified with
Yes,
the pain. You
you
don't get identified with the pain.
Right. Right.
You treat the pain
Right.
or heal the pain as you must,
Or the
at whatever level of
identification,
being you are.
or the person's identification with that narrative.
Yeah.
The person is identified with that narrative,
Yes.
that I have, this is who I am. But that person who suffered is no longer there. Right? The past is no longer
Yes.
there, right? But the person is carrying that past.
Yes, I know of a real life incident where a woman was suffering for many years, and she, mentally suffering, physically suffering, carrying all kinds of diseases, and she was brought to the Dalai Lama in Dharamshala once, and the Dalai Lama was told about it. The Dalai Lama just came and sat next to her, and held her hand for a while, and started talking to people around and did whatever he said, and then got up and went away. In 3 days, the woman was completely cured, mentally and physically. And she didn't know how.
Right.
Many people said, oh, your faith in the Dalai Lama. But she wasn't even a follower of the Dalai Lama. She was just brought to him by other people around her. But the Dalai Lama's touch was a touch of deep healing.
Right.
Not because Dalai Lama was a physician, but because Dalai Lama is Dalai Lama. He's a Buddha.
Compassionate, yes.
Pure compassion. Compassion practiced and lived for a lifetime. In fact, in Dalai Lama's case, many lifetimes.
Right.
Consciously lived and practiced compassion. Compassion so vast that it brings him back lifetime after lifetime to do good to humanity.
Right.
That's the Dalai Lama's compassion, the compassion of a bodhisattva.
Right.
Now, when that compassion comes and touches you, what can you not heal? That healing will go past this lifetime of ours, back through. It will heal time itself. And you have no idea how many things it can heal. The person who will be born in the next lifetime with certain, negative tendencies will now be born without those negative tendencies, because in this enormously complex and almost unknowably complex web of causes and effects, a healing has happened at such deep levels that even the next lifetime is healed. Future is impacted. This person will no longer be born with pain or hurt.
Almost reminds me of that movie. Remember that movie? What was it? The Devil's Advocate?
The Devil's Advocate, yes.
Where he goes back in time and just changes one thing.
Yes.
Everything collapses.
Absolutely. That was an amazing movie, The Devil's Advocate, yes. Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino. Yes. Brilliant movie. And, after all that happens, he comes back to exactly the point, when he's splashing water on his face.
That's right.
And he's seen the whole thing, and he takes the right decision. He makes the right choice.
Right.
And everything is changed.
Everything collapses. All the devil's game is finished.
Yes. And I often ask the question, who then was the devil? Who then is the devil?
Right.
We don't know.
Okay, there's a lot of food for thought here, or lack thereof.
Yes.
Because, as Eliot said, we are not capable of thought. What did he say? Do not think, for you're not capable of thought.
For you're not ready for thought.
We're not ready for thought.
We're not ready for thought.
And it seems like, but we have to get ready for thought. A thought that is able to see all these complexities, the finer, the more subtler movements that happen.
Yes, I agree with you. We have to be ready for that kind of thought, the higher thought.
Yes, a higher kind of mind.
Yes.
And that I want to, since in this book you've talked about Sri Aurobindo, who has inspired you, whom you dedicate this book to, along with Swami Vivekananda. You have absorbed their wisdom. Sri Aurobindo talks of different levels of the mind.
Yes.
Since we've talked about refined thought and subtle thinking, and thinking on a bigger scale.
Yes, bigger and subtler, both.
Bigger and subtler scale. So you're able to connect a lot of things that were out of your ken.
Right.
For the long, who is ken? Out of your horizon. And you're able to connect. You're able to kind of almost see things with your mind. Almost like an Einstein, you're able to connect.
Yeah.
The movements of matter, involved with the matter awareness, right? So Sri Aurobindo talks about different layers of mind. What do they mean? He talks about the normal mind, the higher mind,
For
the
this,
intuitive mind.
I'm afraid we'll need an entire session by itself.
You'll need an entire session.
Because there are multiple levels, and each level needs to be explained, because most people have the wrong understanding of these things. So we'll have to explain each thing and go a bit deeper. So I would perhaps keep it for a later conversation.
Another session on the mind.
On the mind, yes.
Okay, never mind.
On the ranges of the mind.
I'll come to that later. Okay, so we talked about the Christ and Christ consciousness. We talked about suffering, and you say there is no suffering.
There is no suffering. I completely, I've said that very advisedly.
What about fools? Do you suffer fools, or you don't suffer fools?
At one time, I don't think I've come to a stage in life where at one level we are all fools, and at one level no one is a fool really. But I do suffer fools, I think.
You do.
Because
so there is suffering.
we're all fools at some point.
Okay. Let's talk about Advaita.
Advaita.
Advaita means Advaita. Dvaita is two, right? So non-two, non-duality. That is I think it's one of the key things
Commonly
to understand.
accepted, yeah.
Advaita.
So here I go with Sri Aurobindo's interpretation, Sanskritic interpretation of Advaita, not as non-Dvaita,
Non-dual? No.
but Advaita in the sense that which exceeds and subsumes Dvaita.
Okay.
Not necessarily non-dual, but that which is more than dual and non-dual and subsumes both into a third category, which is neither dual nor non-dual, but the dual in the non-dual, in the non-dual in the dual.
Hold on. Now I'm lost.
So
I'm
Advait
caught,
here,
I'm caught in the two now.
The is, as you would know,
Right.
is not always the negative.
Right.
Non. Can also be the prefix that takes this and subsumes it at another
Right.
level. Sorry.
Right.
So for me, Advait of the Vedantic Advait is always, it does not annul Dvait.
Okay.
It takes Dvait to a higher level and subsumes that Dvait in a category where Dvait perfectly coexists with Advait, in the sense non-dual. The dual or the multiple, the all, perfectly coexists with the one. So it's no longer a question of the many as one category and the one as another category, but it's a category there, it's another category, third, if at all one may use the word category.
It's togetherness.
The one is the many and the many is the one. The dual is the non-dual and the non-dual is the dual, without in any way ceasing to be non-dual. The non-dual is dual without ceasing to be non-dual.
So the duality that I have, I and the world,
is not a real duality at all. Because the world and you are not separate. You cannot be. As I said a while ago, if you reflect once more on that, we are the cosmos that has become conscious.
Right.
We cannot be anything else, right? The universe starts from one point. If you go to singularity, everything comes from there. So you and I are the cosmos, which has become conscious and has become self-conscious beings here. Eventually to become conscious again at higher and higher levels, higher and higher orders of consciousness. So if I say that I and the world, it makes sense only at a mental level. Intellectually, one can say I am the world. It's a sort of a convenience.
Right.
But in reality, there's no I and the world. The world is I am the world. In fact, the universe is me and I am the universe. It's like
there's no separation.
It's only a mental separation. Then that's not real. I mean, you can talk about it, but you're talking about something that doesn't exist. It's like two great scholars debating a thing that doesn't exist.
So this is a very interesting take on non-duality of existence, because non-duality, we used to think everything is one. Now
everything is one.
Right. But it exists in multiplicity.
Yeah, that one exists as multiple. I mean, it's not very difficult to grasp that. It's the one that exists multiply without ceasing to be the one.
And it is able to bear all the diversity and potential contradictions and conflicts.
It's because all the diversities are its own diversities.
Right.
So there's nothing even to bear.
Right. It's and even polarized opposites are there in the diversity.
And it's polarized
Diversity, which to us seems like a contradiction.
To the mind. Because the mind is, like you just asked me the question of ranges of the mind. There's a certain range of the mind where these opposites just don't exist.
Even if you think about it, these opposites are projections by our own mind in a certain way. Because I'm looking from my perspective. But if I drop this egoistic perspective, suddenly I see they resolve into a different harmony.
And that happens in your mind, in this present range of thinking mind.
Right.
There are ranges above, which we'll talk later, where it's not the thinking mind at all. These are ranges of the mind where thought does not exist. So if you take thought away, you've taken all dualities and contradictions away.
Right. So if you do not have
so think of it mathematically. Think of 2. Number 2 is 1 and 1.
Right.
So that is it. You cannot have 2 without 1.
Right.
And yet you have 2 because of 1.
Right.
But it's 1 and 1. And the one that is the other one is the 1.
Right.
It sounds funny when I say it, but that's how it is. So you can take it to a million.
Right. It's the same unity that is multiply.
Yes. And you can do million things with million.
Okay.
In a manner of speaking, of course.
All right. Any other questions you have today for me?
Yes, I do. But
since we're talking about non-dual,
yes, I have questions for you.
Yes,
we'll have to keep that for a later conversation.
Okay. Well, I appreciate so much your resolving the duality into further duality, into multiplicity, which I can't handle right now, but I'm sure it'll take care of itself.
Yeah, but it's all finally one.
Finally one. Although it's not really the one because it's multiple.
But it's all one.
Right. It's like the wave and particle.
Yes.
It's the wave and it's the particle.
Yes. Depends on how you see it.
Depends on how we see it. But it's neither of the two.
Like the Buddhists or the old Vedantis used to say, it is this and it is not this, and it is both this and not this, and it is neither this nor not this.
Right.
The four-cornered strategy.
Right.
So that's really the way the mind should always be thinking. There's a higher order of thinking.
I think
it is so, it is not so, it is both so and not so, and it is neither so, not so, nor not so.
Is that so? Okay. Well, I think you've cornered me on this one sufficiently.
Four-cornered you.
Four-cornered me. I, as always, am grateful to you for coming to this.
Thank you.
To this studio. I've learned a lot, but more importantly, I've enjoyed the learning and enjoyed the probing.
Thank you.
I can't say that I have the answers, but as you say, you don't need to have answers.
Yes. It's never about the answers.
It never was about the answers. Yes. It was about the quest. Well, thank you, sir. And I think, I hope our listeners, our audience will take this path of questioning further, this quest that may have no end, that may be an endless quest in joy, in wisdom, in light. Thank you. And we shall meet again soon.
Thank you.